Your intrinsic nature of being, what you really are, is essentially awareness itself. And I don't mean awareness as just another thing to be objectified. It's, of course, not the concept of awareness. That word is simply pointing to something which is ultimately ineffable. It's not something which is perceivable, it is the very substratum through which perception can be possible. Awareness is the prerequisite for any identification that follows. If you think you're anything other than awareness, it's due to awareness that you're able to come to that conclusion. It's the very substratum for any experience to seem to happen. And I drew this model here to hopefully assist in your noticing of how this is the case for every waking and dreaming moment of your life. How what you really are never actually changes or comes and goes, yet it appears as all of the identifiable qualities that you may mistake yourself as. So I depicted awareness as the equilibrium to a frequency wave. It's the still, peaceful substratum through which all excitations arise. So all of the forms that appear within awareness arise from awareness itself. And the attention is actually what manifests these forms into being. Attention is none other than awareness itself, but it's a contractedness of awareness. It's a particular localization of it. So whenever the attention is fixated onto a particular excitation or a form, that's what causes it to appear as an experience. And many people become so accustomed to only attending to the forms of experience that they tend to overlook the essence of awareness itself, the very prerequisite for anything to be experienced in the first place. This is because the forms are much more demanding of the attention. The awareness itself isn't really an excitation, it's perfect stillness. So there's nothing about it that's really competing for attention itself, it just is. It's all of the forms which attract our attention. The attention is attracted to whatever form suits the desire. Just take a second to notice the fact of being aware of anything at all. Anything that you could say about reality or your life is dependent upon this prerequisite of awareness. Any experience that you could point to has been found to be transient. Any particular distinction comes and goes. It's finite in and of itself. And yet the awareness of any particular distinction doesn't really change. There's nothing about it that has ever really come or gone. It just always is. Wherever there is anything to say about reality, awareness already was, before those concepts arose. Awareness always is. It's the uncaused cause, and it's completely boundless, because any experience that seems to happen is already included within awareness. It doesn't exclude any experience. And as awareness seems to localize itself, it creates the illusion of a center. And in doing so, it creates the illusion of separateness. In creating this illusion of separateness, of a center somewhere here and an outside of the center, there's a feeling of lack. There becomes this delusion of incompleteness of awareness. This is essentially the feeling of being a separate person, or the I sense. When you refer to yourself as I, the idea behind it is that you're a separate agent, and in being separate, you're excluding things. In excluding things, you are inherently incomplete. And the reason why I say it's a delusion is because it's ultimately untrue. Awareness never actually divides itself. It's never truly separated or fragmented. It simply appears as the illusion of duality. And the whole time, as an individual becomes convinced that they are some separate agent, they remain as awareness throughout that whole experience. You never stop being awareness. You can just simply become thoroughly convinced that you're some exclusive agent as you attend to those particular attributes. Moksha, liberation, or enlightenment, as some would call it, is recognizing this to be so, that the experience which seems to be happening is none other than appearance of that awareness, and there isn't any particular distinct thing that you could point to which is intrinsically what you are. It's this imperceptibility of awareness itself, which is your innate nature. We often use this word ego to refer to the sense of separate self. It's a particular individual which seems to be very far away from enlightenment because they are so thoroughly convinced that they are a separate agent. And any endeavor that the ego seems to set out on is ultimately selfish, and it's going to perpetually overlook this fact of their intrinsic nature of being as being awareness itself, because awareness is too all-inclusive for the ego. The ego's whole identity is based on exclusion. And so until it gives up that game of exclusivity, it's going to continue to overlook its true nature. The ego is constantly grasping on for a fixed, stable identity where there ultimately is none, because none of the forms are permanent. They're all transient in nature. This is why the ego suffers, because it's attempting to hold on to that which is inevitably going to go away. You could think of a strong ego as being a tightly wound, intense contraction of attention. And as the ego lets go of attachments and desires, it naturally becomes more and more obvious what the natural essence of being is. As this illusory center seems to dissolve, that game of exclusivity fades away as well, and all that remains is all-inclusively everything. All of the experiences which seem to come and go within awareness are equally an appearance of that awareness. So this game that the ego likes to play, which validates its whole identity of this is me and that is not me, and therefore there's some kind of competition at play, that whole game collapses as the ego relaxes itself, as the attention loosens up a bit and becomes open to what is. And just to reiterate, throughout that whole story of the ego becoming aware of its true nature, it never actually stops being awareness itself. There isn't actually such a thing as the ego as a separate entity. It's none other than awareness itself seeming to contract itself to create this illusion of a center. The whole time, there's never a real center with a real boundary from everything else. It's the non-dual appearing as the dual. And I should also clarify that this model here is not exclusively the absolute truth in itself. It's a model which only serves as a method or a stepping stone to noticing this innate nature of being. Whatever you say it is, it's not intrinsically that, and that includes this model here. And yes, awareness is appearing as everything equally, including this model, but the key point is it's not intrinsically the nature of awareness. And I'll leave you with a bit of practical advice. In daily life, whenever you notice yourself getting a bit tense, when you're taking the story called My Life a bit too seriously, remember to relax your gaze. Return the attention to the awareness of the experience itself. Don't become so entranced in the story of particular events happening. Just notice the simple, ineffable isness of being, the fact that it's like anything at all to exist. And remember that you are that ineffability.